Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Michel-Yves Bollore, who's here to share with us his new book, God, the Science, the Evidence. So is science really proving the existence of God? After 4 years of research in partnership with over 20 scientists and esteemed experts, this book explores one of the most significant questions we face: the existence or non-existence of a creator God. Michel-Yves Bollore is an engineer and entrepreneur whose career spans industrial innovation and philanthropic investments in education. He holds a Master of Science and doctorate in business administration. He began his career in his family business, managing Bollore Group Industrial Division from 1981 to 1990. In 1990, he founded France Essor, an industrial group that led major ventures in mechanical engineering and steel manufacturing. Since relocating to London in 2011, he has focused on education and cultural projects. He founded several schools, and he is also a Knight of the Legion of Honor. So welcome to the show, Michel-Yves Bollore.
Thank you, Marianne.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, this book is inspired by the fact that there has been fantastic scientific discoveries during the 20th centuries, which are bringing evidence that the world cannot be explained without a creator God. And this is really a surprise and surprising, because for several centuries, from the Renaissance to 1900, discoveries, one after the other, and we know them, seem to say that it was possible to explain the universe without a creator God. And we remember that at the beginning, the first discoveries were Galileo and Copernicus, who discovered that the Earth was not at the center of the universe. So it was an humiliation for people who thought that they were at the center. And then after, there were the discoveries that it was possible to describe all the solar system, the sun and the planet, with some mathematical models. It was not necessary to look for angels to push the astro and the planets. And it was the mathematics of Newton, Laplace, and a few others. So there were laws. It was not necessary to have a God to push the planet in the sky. And after, there were the discoveries that the age was very old and not a few thousand. It was Buffon. And then after, after Buffon, it was the evolution with Lamarck and Darwin. And it was the explanation of the man descending from animals, from apes and monkeys. So it was also very humiliating and different of what people thought. So all these discoveries, they seem to say we don't need God to explain the universe. And then came the philosophers and they say, if we don't need God to explain the universe, there is a very simple reason, is that because just God does not exist. And even a little bit later, Marx and Freud came and they said, not only God does not exist, but in addition, he's toxic. We must get rid of him. And Marx said that God was the opium of the people, and Freud said that God was the enemy of our freedom, especially the sexual freedom. So after all these discoveries, after all these intellectual and scientists, in 1900, probably 90% of the scientists and philosophers were atheists in Europe. And we know what was the result, is the result that the 20th centuries, many atheist revolution came in Russia, 1970s, in the 20s in Italy, in the 30s in Germany, in 36 in Spain, and after in China with Mao Zedong. So there were revolutions everywhere. And then after, the scientists thought that science would go always in the same direction. And what has been the surprise for everybody is that all the discoveries, starting from the 20th centuries, just point out in the opposite direction. It was now, with the discoveries, we need God to explain the universe. I think that this was a very important reason for us to, to try to show in a book what has been this great reversal in science, this big change, which is essential for our view we can have on the Creator God, and which, for the moment, because all this is quite recent, is not well known from the public. So, our book is a book for the general public. It is easy to read, but it's yet completely exact. And these recipes that we have of a book of science, but not only science, philosophy and history, has been very successful in Europe. At these days, we have sold more than 400,000 copies. And this shows that there is a real hunger in the general public to hear what can reason and science say about the existence of God. Voilà, this is my first, I think, motivation for writing this book.
Well, I'm so glad that you did. It's such a profound book. And often I've thought myself, it's like, how could we live in such a wonderful place if there wasn't a God? I mean, we're just like at a certain distance from the sun where we're not getting burnt up. I mean, there's so many miracles that happen just to make Earth what it is. It couldn't be anything but God.
Yes, this is what we call the anthropic principle of which is the fine tune of Earth and the fine tune of universe. So you see, I think that there is, as you say, there is a real hunger. People are waiting to have information because in Europe, especially, the number of people who believe in God has decreased dramatically. It's now the numbers are below 50% in France, in England, and in many similar countries. And this has created a very strong anxiety in the families. And people, well, they want to know because this division 50-50, perhaps, it's not between the north and the south of a country, it's inside the family. In families now, you have the husband who is believing in God and the wife does not, and some children do and some others do not. And there is a division, and people want to know more. And our book, I was not at all, we were not at all with my co-author expecting a success for this book. And we have realized that people were looking for a book like this. So we have been talking to so many people, and they are so happy that they can have a book for a general public, which is for everybody, for ordinary people like you and me, and in one volume, one book, one volume, to know all what science and reason can say about God and to bring the evidence that is existing. So it's a big reversal.
So, how did your collaboration with over 20 scientists shape the direction of this book?
Well, it was very important. It's not really a book that we have written with my co-author, Olivier Bonassi, because our knowledge in many fields is not uh, good enough. So we are two engineers, and Olivier has made one the top school in France for science and mathematics. So for each chapter, because there are chapters about cosmology, but some chapter about biology and many different chapters, we have been asking experts and scientists to help us. So probably we had close, I think, to 30 scientists and experts to write the book with us. In the recipe of the book, it is for everybody, but we have footnote. We are at the bottom of each page, and you people can read it or not read the footnote. And it's very technical. So we keep the technical part at the bottom of the page, and the rest is easy to read. So many people told us, wow, we are so happy that your book is easy to read. So I think that if you have a child of 17 years old, he can read our book. and also some old people who have no special, really no universities. It's all this is easy to read.
Your book highlights discoveries like relativity, quantum mechanics, and the Big Bang. Which of these do you believe most strongly challenges the material view of the universe?
There has been several shocks um, against the materialistic view of the beginning of the 20th century. The first shock is a science that people do not know. Usually, the name of this science, this new science, was thermodynamics. And the thermodynamics principle is very simple, but also it's a revolution. It's everything wears out. Nothing will last forever. And for example, our sun is old 4 billion years. And in 5 billion years, because it's a tank of gasoline, it will be finished. So when the gasoline is finished, which is in fact hydrogen, but it's the same, when it's finished, the sun will get dark and cold, and all the solar system will disappear. And it's true, what is true for the sun is true for all the stars in the universe. And in billion of years, it's a very long time, but it doesn't change anything. In the very long time, all our universe will be dark and cold and empty, very low density. So our universe is going to its death that scientists call the thermal death of the universe. So this death has been the first shock for the materialism view, because if something is ending, it means that it has a beginning. If you have a fire in your chimney, which is burning, you can see that probably in 1 hour or two, it will be finished. But you can also say that somebody has been lighting this fire a few hours ago, because if not, it would be finished also since a very long time. So everything which finishes has necessarily a beginning, and this is the case of our universe. So the thermal death and the thermodynamic was a proof, the evidence is a better word, was the evidence that our universe will have an end, and everything which has an end has a beginning, and what has a beginning needs a cause. And this is one of the evidence for the existence of God. So the second one, to be very simple, and this one is much more well known from everybody, it is the expansion of universe and the Big Bang. An expansion of the universe and Big Bang also was an evidence for the existence of God. But there has been many other, and the third one I would say is the fine-tuning. The fine-tuning of the universe is something which is surprising, really surprising. In fact, our universe is built on 20 to 30 numbers. 20 to 30, not many numbers. For example, we know that the speed of the light is 300,000 kilometers per second. Why is it this value? What would it be if the speed was a little bit faster or a little bit slower? And we know that these 20 or 30 numbers, if they were slightly modified, our universe would not exist anymore. For example, which is quite well known, the speed at the very beginning of our universe is known as the 15th decimal of the number. So if we change the 15th decimal of the number of the speed of the universe at the beginning, if we increase it by one or make it less by one, then the universe does not exist anymore. So of course there is a question, is if our universe is so fine-tuned, so wonderfully tuned, how can you explain that? So the first answer, which is natural, is to say, well, there is a superior mind. There is a spirit. There is, we can call God, which is very intelligent and almighty, who has created our universe and has made very precise uh, tuning of this universe. And for the materialist who do not want to have this hypothesis of God, they have to imagine or to suppose that there are billions of other universes, which is a very difficult to believe hypothesis, a very bold idea, and there is no argument for it, that these billions of universe, we are lucky and we are in the good one. So the fine-tuning has been probably the third shock to the materialism. And there has been a fourth one, which is that life is much more complex than people thought. And it is not possible to believe what Darwin thought in 1870, which is that life has appeared in a little pound of water at the foot of a volcano with some lighting and electricity and chemical products and some winds and etc. and rain. So nobody believes that anymore. We know that the passage from the leap between inert matter to life is not a leap, it is a chasm. It's a fantastic jump. And nobody knows today how this jump has occurred. Because of course it has occurred because we are here. So you see here, we are just giving four evidence. We cannot detail them, of course. But anyone who wants to have some more will go in the book where it is explained for everybody. So that was but there are others also. Probably we don't have time. So what was very surprising is that 20th century discoveries, one after the other, they show that it is not possible anymore to explain the universe without a creator God. And this is really something fantastic. It is not well known from the general public. It should be more well known. And this is the reason of our book.
And I know you've covered some here, but what would you consider the most compelling scientific evidence today that points towards God?
I would say that it is not one of the four ones that I gave you just a minute ago. It is a fact that we have a set of several evidence which are independent one from the other. And this is a key point. Thermodynamics has nothing to do with the expansion of the universe, which has nothing to do with the fine-tuning of the universe, which has nothing to do with the appearance of life. They are independent evidence. The fact that we have converging independent evidence is the fundamental thing. So we don't have an absolute proof, of course. Absolute proof exists only in mathematics. But if we have in our mind, if we have a scale with two sides, in one side today we have many evidence that we need a creator God to explain the universe. And on the other side, we have nothing or almost nothing. So if we are normal and rational, I would say that we are the jury. We have to make our decision. We should follow what is rational. And I think that what has changed in this beginning of the 21st century is that materialism, which is a belief, and I would say a belief like any others, has become today an improbable belief and probably even an irrational belief. And that is new.
Some critics may argue that science can never definitely prove or disprove God. How would you respond to that challenge?
It's not true at all. Of course, if we consider absolute proof that nobody can contest, there is no absolute proof of anything. Nothing has absolute proof in the real world. Absolute proof exists only in mathematics. In the real world, we are looking to theories and implication of the theories, and the theory that God does not exist, which is the theory of materialism, has implications, very strong implication, what some others call prediction. And the implication of the non-existence of God are, one, that the universe cannot have an absolute beginning, and now we know that it had, very probably. The second is that the universe cannot be fine-tuned. There is no explanation for that, and we know that the universe is fine-tuned. And so we have implication. We can, as we say in science, falsify this implication, which means that we can prove that the implications are wrong, are false, and therefore the theory that God does not exist is false also. And it is not true to say that we cannot get evidence of the existence of God. And all our book demonstrates that I think, in a simple way.
So, the concept of the universe's fine tuning is central to your argument and to your book. How do you explain this idea in accessible terms for readers that aren't scientists?
As we said, fine tuning is the fact that our universe is built on a few numbers. And so these few numbers, why are they so precisely fine tuned? And so the question is, it's incredible. So all the scientists today recognize that our universe is fine tuned. It is fantastic. And for us, we say, well, the explanation is simple. There is a God. He is a clockmaker. He is a very good engineer, and he has made our universe very precisely. And the other, the one who wants to keep their belief in materialism, in that case, they have only one way to explain that phenomenon. It is to say that there are billions of universe, a theory which is called also multiverse. And this theory says, voila, we are billions of universe. We are in the good one. We are very lucky. There are billions of universe where there is no life because the parameters are not well fine-tuned. So, so voila, we have to make a choice in our life, and we believe that to come back, that the fact that we have many evidence, independent one from the other, converging into the same direction, is a very strong indication, and that a rational mind should make a choice. And this choice, the rational choice today, is to believe that God exists.
How does your book address the question of why the universe exists at all?
Alors, the question of why the universe exists is what we call a question of religion. Our book is not a book of faith and not a book of religion. It's mostly, not only, but mostly a book of science and reason. And what we want to demonstrate and to show and explain people to the general public is that we have very good evidence of the existence of a creator God. And this is where is our goal, but it is also where our book stops. The question of why, it's a question of religion. The existence of God is a question of science and reason. The question of why God has created the world, it's a question of religion. So you have to ask religion what the revelation, what God has been giving as a revelation. So the religion are giving different explanation. If we take the most important one, especially in the United States, which is Christianism, in that case, the answer for Christianism is that God is love, and he is happy to have a greater number of people to love, a greater number of children. So he has created angels and men, to men, which means, of course, in general language, men and women, of course, just to have more children, a greater number of children. So this is the typical Christian explanation for the why. But if you were looking to another religion, you would have perhaps another explanation for the why.
How would you advise educators and students to approach the intersection of science and spirituality without conflict?
It is a very important question. First of all, the domain of science, the domain of physics, and the domain of metaphysics, they have an overlap. And this is the overlap we are talking of, which is the beginning of the universe, fine-tuning, all these questions, and the appearance of life from inert matter. All these questions are both questions of science and of metaphysics. So there is an overlap between physics and metaphysics. So why is it that there is a conflict? It is because the question of the existence of God is, unfortunately, it's a fact, it's a passionate question. For many people, the existence of God is perceived, is considered as a risk of a limitation of their freedom. For some people, the fact that there would be a God, they have in mind what there is in the Bible, for example, which is you won't do this, you won't do that, you won't kill, you won't cheat, you won't lie, etc., etc. So people are afraid that a God would be a limitation to their freedom. They are extremely attached to a kind of freedom which is a full, complete freedom. And they are also afraid that God could be a judgment one day and say, what you did here was good and what you did the other day was not good. And they don't want to judge. So many people don't want to hear about a judge or a tyrant. So they prefer to have a world without God, and they are not ready to change their mind. And this is why it is passionate. And we must try to respect, first of all, to respect the opinion of everybody, because we are humanity, we are all brothers, if I may say. And so we should respect everybody. But even respecting everybody, truth is a question which is very important. And it is important to know if there is a God or not, if there is something or nothing, and if finally, what are we ourselves? Are we just, like the materialist believe, are we just matter? Are we just matter, which means that we are the result of chance and necessity? After our death, there is nothing, there is no hope, there is nothing. So we are nothing, we are just animal, and there will be an end to our life. And in that case, it's important to know because there is nothing else we can do than eat, drink, and dance. Well, or, at the opposite, are we something more? Are we more than nothing? Are we something else? Are we something more? And if we are more, perhaps there is a possibility, like many religions say, that there is a door to another life in the future where we could find the people we have loved. So you see, it's two different patterns of life. And according to our decision, we are not going to live our life in the same direction. We will have very different life. In one life, there is nothing to do. There is nothing. Just get fun. And the other, there is something perhaps very important. So we have to know. And perhaps the second reason of our book is that we want to ordinary people, people like us, people like me, can find in one book, in one volume, in one book, in one volume, easy to read, all what reason and science can say about this question.
What do you hope readers and our listeners take away from your book?
Well, I'm always happy. You know, this book has been released in France 4 years ago, so we had a lot of debate, conferences, dedicating the books to people. We have been talking to people. We have received hundreds and hundreds of letters. We have replied to all of them, and it was really wonderful to discuss with all these people. We have been very lucky that this book has been extremely successful. We have been number one for weeks, all categories in France, in Italy, in Spain, in Portugal, in Mexico. We have sold more than 400,000 and we'll reach probably soon 500,000 copies. And we are happy to see that many people have been happy and enjoy reading this book. We don't want to force people to believe in God. This is not at all the aim of our book, the goal of our book. We would like that people say, well, I have in my hands everything I need to make a decision. And finally, the people make their own decision. We have to make a decision because it's not a question of absolute proof, just evidence. So people they have to make their decision. So if the book can help them to make a decision, I'm very happy. I feel very happy.
Well, Michel, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Michel. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, God, the Science, the Evidence. Make sure to pick up your copy at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.